Sachavachai Namo Namaha
Priyaya Keshavalashya Vishnu Bharti Prate Devi Satyavatya Namo Namaha Jai Tulsi Maharani Maharani ki Jai. All right.
Guess everybody else ran away. After they surrendered all their money last night, they have to go back to work today. All right. Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Kunya Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Sudanandana Vrajachanaranjona Sudanandana Jambuna Tira Manachante Yamuna Tira Manachante Jaya Rama Kunya Vikhanti
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Kunya Vikhanti
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Pira Malaba Girivaradhanti
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Nanamalabha Girivaradhanti
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari
Sumanandana Rajajanaranjana Sumanandana Rajajanaranjana Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Tada Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadata, Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath, Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri, Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Jagadada Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Dejatarane. Okay, we are reading about devotional service executed by people in different modes of nature. And if it applies to you, pray to Krishna. So, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Text 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Abhisandhya Yo Himsam Dhambam Matsaryam Eva Va Sangramvi Hina Drik Bhavang Mahi Kuryat Sa Tamasa Abhisandhya Yohimsam Dambam Matsaryam Eva Va Sangrambi Vinatrig Bhavam Mahi Kuryat Satamasa Abhisandhya Yohimsam Dhammam Matsaryam Eva Va Sangrambi Vinatrig Bhavam Mai Kuryat Satamasa Abhisandhya Yohimsam Dhammam Matsaryam Eva Va Sangrambi Vinatrig Bhavam Mai Kuryat Satamasa. Okay.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat sasamasaha.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Abhisandhaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryam eva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Samrambhi bhinna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat satamasaha.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Abhisandhaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryam eva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Sambrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat satamasaha.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Abhisandhaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Abhisandhaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat satam tamasah.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Abhisandhaya yo himsam.
Abhisandhyaya yo himsam.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Dambham matsaryameva va.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Samrambhi binna drigbhavam.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
Mai kuryat satamasah.
All right. Abhisandhaya.
Abhisandhaya.
Having in view.
Having in view.
Ya. He who.
He who.
Hingsam.
Himsam.
Violence.
Violence.
Dambam.
Dambham.
Right.
Pride.
Matsaryam.
Matsaryam.
Envy.
Envy.
Eva.
Eva.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Va. Or. Sangrambhi.
Samrambhi.
Angry.
Angry.
Vina. Separate.
Separate.
Drik.
Drik.
Whose vision.
Whose vision.
Bhavam.
Bhavam.
Devotional service.
Devotional service.
Mahi.
Mahi.
To me.
To me.
Kuryat.
Kuryat.
May do.
May do.
Sa.
Sa.
He.
He.
Tamasa.
Tamasa.
In the mode of ignorance.
In the mode of ignorance.
So translation. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separatist, who is considered to be in the mode of darkness. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It has already been stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, that the highest, most glorious religion is the attainment of causeless, unmotivated devotional service. In pure devotional service, the only motive should be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is not actually a motive. That is the pure condition of the living entity. In the conditioned stage, when one engages in devotional service, he should follow the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master in full surrender. The spiritual master is the manifested representation of the Supreme Lord because he receives and presents the instructions of the Lord as they are by disciplic succession. It is described in Bhagavad Gita that the teachings therein should be received by a disciplic succession. Otherwise, there is adulteration. To act under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master with a motive to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure devotional service. But if one has a motive for personal sense gratification, his devotional service is manifested differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, and angry, and his interests are separate from the Lord's. One who approaches the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, but who is proud of his personality, envious of others, or vengeful, is in the mode of anger. He thinks that he is the best devotee. Devotional service executed in this way is not pure, it is mixed, and is of the lowest grade. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life, but if one is not pure and still has motives, it's heavy, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respects to such a Vaishnava because he has accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life. But one should not keep company with a Vaishnava who is in the mode of ignorance. Pretty heavy. So again, Avisundaya yohim sang damhang matsaryam evava sangramvi binatrig bhavang mai kuryat satamasa. So, Om Ganatimirandasha Niranjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha. I just want to read something by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who actually delineates different devotees in the mode of ignorance of first class, second class, or third class, or lowest grade, a little higher, and a little higher grade. So even within the mode of ignorance. Of course, devotional service is never in the mode of ignorance. Devotional service is never in the mode of passion. Devotional service is never in goodness, but they're devotees who are influenced by these modes. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, he who worships with faith the Lord with a goal to destroy another person has a tamasic bhakti of the low grade. That's the lowest grade. So that's the heaviest thing. If someone is worshiping Krishna and saying, Krishna, destroy this person. He, the second grade is, he worships like a prostitute his master Narayana, Lord of the universe, with a cheating mentality, has tamasic bhakti of a medium grade. In other words, wants to cheat the devotees, cheat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, something like Vrikasura was worshiping Lord Shiva. Actually, that's the lowest class because he wanted to hurt Lord Shiva. He who worships the Lord in a competitive mood, after seeing the worship of the Devatas, has a tamasic bhakti of the highest type. He's got 3 types of tamasic bhakti. So, what do we do about this? Do we go around and point out different devotees and say, he's a devotee in the mode of passion, he's a devotee in the mode of ignorance, and he's a devotee in the mode of goodness, and he is a devotee, a transcendental devotee, who simply has a pilashita shunyam jnana karma navritam anugulyalan chilanam bhaktirutamam, someone who simply wants to please Krishna. We have to have some discrimination. Yes, that's true. But to utilize that discrimination in criticizing others puts us in the tamasic level. You understand? We have to have some discrimination. So we should basically apply, most of the times we should apply these verses to ourselves. Because basically, to be honest, as we've often talked about this before, the devotees should be introspective. You know what that word means? Introspective means you should examine your motives. You should examine your consciousness. You should examine your association. You should examine what you're attracted to and see which modes of nature are applicable in those particular cases. And think about it. You know, when you become very competitive with a devotee or you become angry with a devotee, you know, oftentimes we become angry with devotees. And that's, of course, anger is the mode of ignorance. Then, what is happening with me? You should feel embarrassed, not in front of other people, but you should feel, oh my God. And that should be an impetus to humility, or for humility. Just like sometimes devotees come to me and they say, you know, I have all these motives, they reveal to me. This, you know, I feel like this, I feel like that. And I actually say that's a good sign. Why? Because you're recognizing these things. You understand? Those who don't recognize the things, you know, sometimes people think, we've seen on the internet some people criticize ISKCON or things ISKCON has done or mistakes ISKCON has made or different devotees in ISKCON have made. And it's not productive. It's with the idea of getting even or vengeance, which is in the mode of ignorance. So anyway, so if we examine our own hearts and see, ascertain, when we are experiencing the mode of ignorance, or the mode of passion, for that matter, then that should be an impetus for us to do what? Pray to Krishna, serve the Vaishnavas, and control these emotions by not giving in to them. Like intelligence, sometimes Krishna consciousness is called Buddhi Yoga. So that's the intelligence, which is higher than the mind. And Prabhupada said, in many cases, the intelligence is like this with the soul. Mm-hmm. And another example is the intelligence is the form direction of the supersoul. So we fix our intelligence in Krishna consciousness by reading Prabhupada's books. We fix our intelligence in Krishna consciousness by associating with advanced devotees, by revealing our mind, guyam akyati, prichati, in confidence to more advanced devotees, and ask them, what can I do? But that requires a great deal, as you mentioned before, of honesty, self-reflection, and honesty, and vulnerability. You know, we oftentimes, or most of the time, we don't want to admit that we made a mistake even, what to speak of faults. Isn't it? You know, it's very hard. I mean, I'm thinking of one political character right now. None of you, of course. Who just won't admit, you know, maybe I made a mistake. And they try to cover their mistakes by saying, yeah, this is just my strategy. Yeah. So let's be honest. It's refreshing. It's humility. As Krishna, or as Sanatana Goswami states in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that dainu is actually equivalent to bhakti or prema. Prema produces humility, and humility produces prema. Now, humility doesn't mean to think less of yourself. We've talked about this oftentimes.
Yeah.
That's actually another form of false pride. Like if you start beating yourself up, that's also in the mode of ignorance. If you become angry with yourself, I mean, how many times have you all just said to yourselves, I am a rascal, I'm a demon, you know, I'm an idiot.
Every day.
Every day. You know, that's not the point. We talked about this recently, about having self-esteem. So humility doesn't mean to get rid of the self-esteem. You get rid of the self-esteem and you're depressed. And you have to see our psychiatrist here. And get some antidepressant. But we should have very high self-esteem. And that self-esteem has to be based upon our real identity. And our real identity is, Jivera Surabhoy Dacha Krishna Das. I am Krishna's servant. I am dear to Krishna. Krishna loves me. Talk about positive affirmations. Instead of, I'm intelligent. Isn't it in the material world I have these positive affirmations, I'm independent, I'm intelligent, I'm happy. It doesn't work like that. But instead, I am Krishna's servant. I am a servant of the Vaishnavas. Just think like that. It's wonderful. And then you're thankful, you're happy. And even if I make mistakes, and even if the world thinks I'm whatever, it doesn't matter. How does someone like, let's say, Lord Rishabhadev maintain his self-esteem when everybody is passing air in front of him, throwing stones at him, making fun of him? How does Shukadev Goswami maintain his self-esteem? He's walking around without clothes. And, little children and people are following him and making fun of him. Because he understands his identity. Once you understand your identity, then whatever anyone else says about you. Because I know in Indian culture, not just prestige, but reputation is so important. Isn't it? People will kill for reputation. Oh my God. Make a mistake. No. Ishwaro ham, aham bhi. Siro ham balavan sukhi. I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. Which is the demoniac quality. So instead, anyway, so we understand who we are spiritually. We're proud of Krishna. We're proud of our spiritual master. We're proud of the Krishna consciousness movement. We're proud and have faith in the process of devotional service. And then, whatever, then you can be truly humble. And then you can serve others with happiness instead of what's being described here in this verse. Anyway, I'll keep it short because I'm really a little tired from seeing Yamar. So anyway, I'm pretty tired actually. So anybody have any questions? We can answer questions at this point. Yes?
So Gurudev, in the verse it also talks about a separatist.
So having a separate interest other than the interest of the Lord. Yeah. And actually this is pretty much a common denominator with the mode of passion also, as we'll read.
Okay.
Having separate interests from the interests of the Lord, separate interests from the interests of the devotees, being completely self-centered. That's what separate interest means. So, other questions? Yes?
Any devotees who come, neophytes or coming new to the Krishna consciousness movement, usually, I mean, I have also gone through all that. Like initially, we'll be having some of these negative tendencies.
Yes.
So that time it is considered like a struggling devotee instead of thinking as a mode of ignorance.
What I was saying, you use your intelligence. So even though you may have those tendencies, you can be functioning at a higher level and not. In other words, you accept the highest standard. And even though there's impulses to be like that, you don't succumb to them. Therefore, if you can do that, you're even qualified to help and give instructions to others, and even be a guru, according to Rupa Goswami. Vacho vegam manasakrota vegam jiva vegam udurupashta vegam. So, what does that mean? That means, of course, the rest of this verse says, one who can tolerate the urges from the tongue, belly, genitals.
Just take it off.
Mind, isn't it? So, if one can tolerate these things, one can be a guru. What does that mean? That means in the beginning stage of devotional service, or even later, one may have these impulses. That's why they're being described here. I mean, I'm sure that almost everybody in this room has motives for material enjoyment sometime. Do any of you not have any motives for material enjoyment? Raise your hand. I'd like to take shelter of you. Any of you not have any desire for, well, actually, going back to the next verse. Any of you not have any desire, don't ever get envious. Anyone? Raise your hand if you never get envious of anyone else. If any of you were never proud, or never get angry. Right, that anger's the main one here. Actually, now reading these things, I'll explain how to overcome those things, those particular bad qualities. Actually, that's a very important point. So as far as enviousness, first of all, we should understand why we envious of someone has something that we don't have. Then we understand that Krishna, like this verse, Ishivashavidam sarvam yadkancha jagatam jagat tena jagatena madridha kashasvid ganam. That Krishna is the owner and controller of everything, and everybody has his quota. And whatever anyone has comes from Krishna. Krishna, as we've often spoken about this, that Krishna lends it and he takes it away. And so if we realize that, it's all just Krishna's vibhuti. And ultimately, we want to steal it from Krishna. You understand? That's our idea. For example, in the Ramayana, we find that Ravan was envious of Ram. He wanted Sita Devi. But he didn't understand that Sita Devi belongs to Ram. So if we understand to whom everything belongs, then we'll see that our envy is actually envy of Krishna. And if we think like that, we're less likely to be envious. And proud is the same thing. Whatever we're proud of has actually been lent to us by God. And violence, how to overcome violence? By cultivation. Why are we violent towards someone? Because we want something that someone else has. We're angry with someone because we're frustrated. But to understand also that Krishna is actually giving us what we need. And Separatist, of course, means separate interests other than the interests of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, getting back to the intelligence platform. So if we actually understand that we have these qualities, and then we don't give in to them using our intelligence. For example, you may feel angry with someone for some particular purpose. Then you just analyze what is most pleasing to Krishna and what is displeasing to Krishna, and you act in a way that's pleasing to Krishna. You think before you emote. You think before you act. And that way you're using your intelligence. So in other words, you can act on a higher level and even be qualified to be a guru. That's interesting, isn't it? Because you're tolerating the urges, not giving in to them, and serving Krishna in a way, like Prabhupada would often say, act in knowledge gives you, action and knowledge gives you realization. That's intelligence. So you act as if you're not angry. That's hard.
That's very hard.
That's what it means. Krota vegam, the push vegam. So, all right. Someone does something. Let's make an example. So you all give me an example of something that might stimulate your anger. What?
Someone dishonest.
Yeah, well, let's say a personal thing. Let's say someone doesn't serve you prasadam. You're like Durvalsa Muni. So you're hungry, you're angry, and so automatically your default thought should be, what would please Krishna? I mean, practically. All right, let me give a personal example. I don't want to do it. Yeah, I'll do it anyway. I mean, yeah, last night I was sitting, and in my mind, I was thinking, I wasn't angry. I was thinking, but just, it was something practical. I was thinking, Krishna, get me out of here. Yeah, I actually had the thought that maybe I could buy my way out by offering a donation. I was thinking like that. I was thinking of asking, how much do I have to give to leave?
That's exactly what happened. I was like, let's get to the target quickly.
I just walked out of there.
But still, I thought, what is most pleasing? The impulse was there. To run.
We hit the way clear.
And Bhai Chaitanya was coming to me, and he said, it's almost all over. It's almost over for half an hour. And so, but still, I was thinking, what would Prabhupada want? So even though, Krishna, help. Krishna save me. Krishna, let it be over. Krishna, not that there should not be another paper with a... I have to be honest. I'm just a practical example. So, and then I just sat there and gave blessings to everybody and controlled my mind. Because I thought of what would please Prabhupada. And actually that's the benefit of having a spiritual master. Because Krishna is very high up there. How do we know what pleases Krishna? Isn't it?
Yes.
Don't have his email address right now. Or his phone number. I can't. Krishna, what should I do? So I refer back in my mind to Prabhupada. And that's what I was doing last night. I was very conscious of Prabhupada. probably the most conscious of crowd I've ever been in. By the mercy. You know, as I saw it, said Prabhupada, okay, this is your movement, your temple, it's not my temple, it's not my movement, I'm not getting anything out of this. Prabhupada, what should I do? You sit there. And you bless everybody. Yeah, because, you know, everybody has a different type of service. I mean, what was going on was nice. I mean, they were collecting for temples, wonderful. But everybody has a different, you know, varna and everything like that. So what I like most is just like sweet music, like Genevieve Harrison music.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, in my own devotional service, I have to sit through kirtans that are not exactly sweet. Get my feet bathed. You know, everybody's thinking, oh, he's really enjoying. You know, people look on the internet and they see, oh, the guru he's really enjoying. He gets his feet bathed and everything. Gets 200 preparations wherever he goes. But I'm just thinking, this is service to Krishna. What would Prabhupada want? I'm serving his movement. And that's really what Vacho Vegam, Manasapurta Vegam, Yuva Vegam, Uddarapashta Vegam is at that point. Because all of us, regardless, you know, whether you're pure devotees or not pure devotees, you have these impulses in the mind. And you just understand what's pleasing to Krishna, what's not pleasing to Krishna. I mean, that was the problem with Bharat Maharaj. If he was thinking what was pleasing to Krishna, he wouldn't have become so attached or giving up his spiritual practices to take care of the baby deer. He would have taken care of the baby deer. I mean, that's pleasing to Krishna. You see an animal suffering, you should help the animal. But he wouldn't have given his heart to the deer. He would have thought, what is pleasing? And the reason, one of the main reasons he was like that, was he didn't have the association of devotees. That's another point. If we have the association of devotees, they can keep reminding us of what's pleasing to Krishna. You know, not only the spiritual master, but reminding us. So, you know, my devotional service, practically, what keeps me going is what's pleasing to Prabhupada. You know, you get up in the morning to please Prabhupada. And one is like that. Yasha prasada, Bhagavat prasada, Yasha prasada, Navati katopi. Then you get Krishna's mercy. It's as simple as that. Becoming Krishna conscious is as simple as that. Or overcoming the modes of nature. Mamchi yopya bacharena bhakti yogena sevate. Sagunan samati chaitan. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. It is as simple as that. Simply acting, then you get realization. That's how you overcome these impulses of the modes of passion and ignorance. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, something nice came out of this. So,
Thank you.
but, you know, another thing is, what I'm doing is demonstrating to you how people have to be vulnerable. In my own life. You know, generally my preaching, I actually reveal, you know, what's going on. So I'm trying to show you the importance of honesty. Not putting on false front. You know, don't put on a false front. Be honest with people. People respect and love you more if you're like that. And you'll be happier. Because if you're always trying to protect something, you know, protect an image that's not you, then your life is completely miserable. Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes.
Gurudev, during some of the classes, like whether it's Srimad Bhagavatam class or any special class, I've heard people saying, I can't connect with this speaker or preacher, and that's why I don't like to come and sit. Whereas there's another scenario where coming and sitting in Srimad Bhagavatam class is a seva, is a devotional service. So when we know that this class has been given by a person whom I don't connect with, what should be the attitude?
Interesting question. Yeah, I mean, it's happened to me, I'll be honest. I mean, sometimes I'm in a class, should I be this honest? Anyway, sometimes I'm in a class, I'm actually praying to Krishna it'll be over soon. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah, I mean, see, honesty, you know, see, how, isn't it refreshing to be honest? You know, it says, you know, it's refreshing, then you won't develop any psychological problems if you're honest with yourself and open. So, anyway, so, yeah, it helps me pray to Krishna more. I mean, sometimes you're in a class and you're thinking it's ending, and then he starts up again. You know, it's just, anyway, what can I say? So, what do you do? Well, actually, two questions. What do you do if you're in such a class? And what do you do if you're invited to such a class and you know you're not going to connect? Good question. Well, what I do is, you know, I mean, I just try to remember Krishna and take it as a service that I'm sitting there. Even though, I mean, you have to be honest, sometimes you just don't connect with what someone is talking about, or I have the experience that sometimes when people speak too close to the microphone, like that you can't understand anything they're saying. You ever have that experience?
Oh, yes.
You know, they turn up the volume. I had that problem last night too. Because it was just like, I was right by the speakers.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, all right. Whatever you're saying is good. But anyway, so, yeah, so we had that experience. So, out of deference to the speaker and deference to, you know, the audience, then you know, just pray to Krishna, chant in your mind or something. Don't chant with the beats. Don't go, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So, yeah, then you're in the class. But otherwise, if you're supposed to go to a class, then you really can't connect for some reason or other. Maybe just do some service, like cook in the kitchen at that time. I've had that experience sometimes with, you know, people giving class, and then I just give myself kitchen duty at that time. Or another thing I do is, you know, I make flower garlands for the deities or something. Because, you know, I got to keep the mind occupied, so you got to be practical.
Yeah, because only Sundays I go to Srimad Bhagavatam class, and there are some speakers whom I don't connect with, but I still have to sit, and I am
You have to
sitting
sit. Yes, that's a problem. You're thinking, I have to sit. So instead, you change your mentality that I'm choosing to sit because I know this will be pleasing to Prabhupada, my spiritual master. Then it becomes a more pleasant experience. I mean, like last night, you know, I complain about it and everything, but it really connected me with Prabhupada. So in that way, it was a very spiritually enlivening experience because I was connected with Prabhupada and I understood I'm doing this only for you, Prabhupada. And that's what unmotivated devotional service is, ahaitukiya tratiyata. That even if someone doesn't really resonate with what's happening, you do it because you do the needful and you're doing it to please Krishna. So you think in your mind, I'm sitting here, Krishna, to please you. And then it becomes an act of devotion. Many things we do normally we wouldn't really want to do. Like I gave the example when I first joined the movement. I was asked to clean the toilets the first day, and I said all my life I didn't even lift a sponge my whole life. I hardly knew what a sponge was. That was what mothers were for. To clean. So, but then I thought, this is for Krishna. And I was told that every time, as far as the pots in the kitchen, every spot you clean, you're cleaning your heart.
Yeah.
So I took it like that. And even something that by nature is not my nature, I became very happy just doing a little humble service, and it really helped me immensely in devotional service. So that's the intelligence platform, that you just jump into the water and you do something that you know is pleasing to Krishna, but you don't want to do. Then Krishna becomes very pleased with you. Like Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra. You think Arjuna was really enthusiastic to kill his relatives? But he did it. I mean, when Krishna said to Arjuna, when grandfather Bhishma was being protected by Shikandani, Krishna said to Arjuna, keep firing the arrows. Arjuna was, he was in anxiety and distress. He was basically looking the other way. Even though he's expert, even though he looks the other way. He was just like, it was excruciating for Arjuna to fill his grandfather with arrows, because grandfather Bhishma kept rushing at Krishna and Arjuna, even though he had some arrows in his body. Can you imagine that? That's a Kshatriya.
Yeah.
Someone puts an arrow in your body and rip it up and off and just keep fighting. Me, you put one arrow in, it's just like, call the emergency. Take me to the hospital. Have a kirtan or something. But Arjuna, he was in pain doing that. And Krishna said, do it. Okay, I'll do it. And that's pure devotional service. Sometimes things are really painful, difficult, go against our psychophysical nature. Everyone has a different psychophysical nature. Like I mentioned last night, it's not my psychophysical nature to engage in fundraising. It's against my psychophysical nature. I just feel someone wants to give, it's all right. If they don't want to give, it's all right. No. Would you like to give? Now we're at 5,000. Now we're at 4,000. Now we're at 10 cents. Anyone like to give 25 cents? It's just like, Again, it's the opposite of my nature. My nature is more medical. Let me tell you, last night I got back, and just to keep my mind peaceful, I picked up this nice book about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, read about Ramananda Roy. I felt so happy. That's my nature. I mean, just to be honest. It's just like, oh, it's so blissful. Ramananda Roy, hearing about his poetry. So many things the devotees don't know about, because they have this wonderful book about, that was written by one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. It was a German, an academic book about Lord Chaitanya and his associates. So anyway, so that's my nature. But then Krishna says, your nature may be like that. You go to the Himalayas, that's what you want to do. Go to Govardhan. Goodbye, cruel world. But whenever I think like that, Prabhupada tells me I'm a rascal. So then I do what Prabhupada wants. And that's the whole point. And that's pure devotional service. Like Arjuna did what Krishna wanted, that was pure devotional service. Arjuna wanted to just follow his nature, that wasn't pure devotional service. So there's tests. Krishna puts us through many tests like that. And that's the Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. That's how you do it. Because Krishna wants, that's how you conquer these impulses, lower nature. So, any other questions? Yes.
Alright, just on that point of Vacha Vegam and so forth, when we have problems like that, for example, or any other problems for that matter, we have a tendency to magnify the problems within our mind. So let's say if someone is being harassed by anger or envy or something. 1 day, 2 days, okay, fine. But then if you're practicing and it goes on for years, decades, and so forth, then automatically you're thinking to yourself, when is this ever going to end? I'm practicing, but nothing seems to be happening. So how does one develop the patience and the determination to go on.
By Krishna's reciprocation, what one tolerates. Krishna gives one special mercy. Krishna reciprocates. Krishna, you see, you'll do it. You'll experience. But also, another point is, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says that we have emergency duties and we have regular duties. You understand? So, in an emergency case, yes, we can do things that are different than our nature. But on a regular basis, it's not going to really be helpful for our Krishna consciousness. You know, it's not that I'm going to go to fundraising meetings every day for the rest of my life, which will be very short in that case. But, you know, this is like, I wouldn't say an emergency, an extraordinary or different circumstance than normal. So, I mean, if every day, you know, like whatever your nature is, if you're a Brahminical nature and every day you're asked to do some Shudra activity, you know, actually, if, for example, if I was asked to clean toilets for the rest of my life, it would be more of a challenge. I mean, if Prabhupada said to do it, I would do it. At the drop of a hat. I tell you, that's what I'm thinking. If Prabhupada said, okay, I'll do it. But normally, it would be a challenge. But on a temporary basis, yeah.
And if we're applying that to internal struggles, for example, anger.
We should basically situate ourselves so that we're working according to our psychophysical nature. That's our responsibility. The Guru helps us understand our psychophysical nature and engages us according to our psychophysical nature. But, you know, the Guru can't be around 24/7, so we have to understand what is our psychophysical nature and act accordingly. But in other circumstances, we would be called to do different things for Krishna. And then we should accept that. But, you know, obviously, if it's every day, then it may not be productive for one's health or psychological welfare. So, interesting points. So anyone, yes?
Hare Krishna, my dear Gurudev. How to engage our children in devotional service when they don't have any interest on Krishna consciousness?
Oh, here's that question again. Tell them, unless they chant 16 rounds a day, they're not going to get any food. Make them dance by beating them. Anyway, I'm joking, of course. The way you bring your children to Krishna consciousness is that you show a good example, you be happy, you don't argue with your husband. Have I asked an impossible thing right now?
It's a material world.
I mean, you can have differences of opinion. I know I struck a nerve there.
Yes.
You can have differences of opinion. Obviously, I mean, that's life. But you discuss it in a way, just like in Vedic discussions, there's something called vada. You know what I'm talking about. Where you just discuss to arrive at the truth or to arrive at a practical solution. But generally, when you have arguments with each other, you want to defeat the other one, whether he or she is right or wrong, it doesn't matter, but you want to enjoy victory. So the point is, pleasant discussions, you know, differences of opinion with your husband, you know, or husband with the wife, are fine. But if the children see that here are my parents who are ostensibly Krishna conscious, they're chanting 16 rounds, but they're always arguing with each other, finding fault in others, angry, who's going to want to be Krishna conscious? as I mentioned, people become Krishna conscious, or children, or anybody, because of role models. So the parents are the natural role models. If they don't find you and your husband as good role models, they will take their friends as role models.
Yeah, that's true.
And their friends are not really people that you want them emulating. So the key is you cannot make your children Krishna conscious. You can make yourself Krishna conscious, and you can set a good example for them. Show how someone who is Krishna conscious is happy, has good relationships, loves others, is compassionate, is tolerant. You know, if they meet someone, or if they see that you have all these qualities, they'll think you are their hero. Now, and I say now, but I'm just saying hypothetically, you're their anti-hero. Meet someone they don't want to be like,
Yeah, that's true.
isn't it?
Yeah.
If they see the parents are hypocritical, don't do as I do, do as I say. You know, I'm sure some of you have had parents like that before. Then what? You're not going to want to be a devotee. You'll rebel. Children especially, you know, when they're really cute and young, that's another thing. They're not, when they're like 2 days old, they're not rebelling. But when they get to be 2, there's this thing called terrible twos, where they establish their own independent identity, or autonomy it's called. They're rebelling, they appear to be rebelling, but actually they're just establishing their independent autonomy. So you have to allow the children to make their own decisions, but be a perfect, as far as possible, role model for them. Then there's no problem. Isn't that? And that's, you know, guru. Parent is natural guru. No one should be mother or father, spiritual master, worshipful person, unless they're capable of liberating their dependence from the cycle of birth and death, Lord Rishabhadev states. So that means you have to be an acharya. Each and every one of you. You want to raise good children? You have to be an acharya. What can I say? If you want to give Bhagavatam class, you should be an acharya. I mean, you don't have to be the most expert person, know all the verses and everything like that. But if you're an acharya, people will listen. So that's the key to possibly having Krishna conscious children. Now, on the other hand, even if you are an acharya, even if you are perfect in your actions and behavior, still it's up to them. Advaita Acharya had 6 children, 3 of whom were not Vaishnavas, or at least his type of Vaishnavas, and 3 of whom were great devotees. You know, so I guess 50% is pretty good. Because if you only have 1 child, you got to give you 100%. Everything is invested in that 1%. But also don't have these unrealistic expectations of your children, expecting them to be like little Prahlad Maharaj. Because you may be like Hiranyakashipu. But you know, I remember we talked about this yesterday actually. Sometimes devotees have children and they read these books. You know, my god sister Urmila Mataji wrote a book like Vaikuntha Children was called. So everybody's thinking, my child has come from the spiritual world to preach Krishna consciousness. Wow. And you have these expectations, but when someone has unrealistic expectations about another individual, it's a burden and you just want to rebel. like my mother had unrealistic expectations about me, that I'd become a doctor, make her proud. I said, no, not me. So we just have to deal with everyone, including especially children, with love, understanding. You don't want to chant, it's all right. Do you want to talk about it? If they have some behavioral issue that you don't like, instead of yelling at them, we talked about this yesterday with some of the devotees, instead of just like, whatever, get to school, wake up! I don't know what else you say to them. But instead of doing that, then you just sit down and you take time, try to understand them. Or you don't want to go to school, let's talk about it. And lovingly try to understand what they're feeling. They may say, well, I don't like this teacher, this, and then you empathize with them. You don't have to you don't take them out of school, but empathize means you hear them. 90% of communicating with people and dealing with people is just hear them. Then once you hear them and you're empathic and compassionate with them, it usually diffuses the whole situation. They feel that someone really cares about me. And if you're like that with the children, and you're Krishna conscious yourself and not arguing too much with your husband and wife, then the children will think, these people love me. They're not trying to force me to do something. And then out of love, they'll actually want to be Krishna conscious. Isn't it? Love. I mean, is that like that with Prabhupada? First thing I felt when I met Prabhupada was here's someone who loves everyone. Of course, he loves me unconditionally. That means whatever I am, whoever I am, he still loves me and cares, wants the best thing for me, and he's not coming to me with something, getting something for himself. So many times the parents want something for themselves. They want their children even to be good devotees because they can show off their children. That mentality doesn't help. I know sometimes they have their children learn so many verses, not because it's, obviously verses about the Gita, but because they want to show off their child. See, my child won the Gita verse competition. And then you ask the child 10 years later, are you your body? I don't know. They may not have any understanding about what they've memorized in the past. But, we have to understand, we have to have loving relationships, especially with children, with everybody. If they feel they're loved unconditionally in each and every circumstance, whether they decide to become devotees, whether they don't decide to become devotees, you will love them. They're more likely to become devotees. Yeah. Otherwise, anyway, we won't get into more of that. So, good question. So, anyone else have a question? Yes.
I'm new into this devotion. I just want to know the basic principles to please Krishna and how to stay. I've been in and out many times.
You're into what?
I'm new into the devotion.
Devotion.
So I want to know the basic principles to please Krishna and how
The
to
basic
stay.
principles to feel Krishna is, first of all, hear about Krishna's pastimes, develop an attraction for Krishna, develop an attraction for Krishna's devotees, make some connection with some man's devotees of Krishna. Chant Krishna's names with devotion, and then things will develop. Take some time.
And how to stay there. I've been in and out many times.
What's that?
I've been in and out many times.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
happens.
another factor. So how to stay there focused.
Just be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like we're talking about being compassionate with others and tolerant of others and loving to others. Love yourself. We're supposed to love everybody, but we're also supposed to love ourselves. We're part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna loves me. This again, the self-esteem then. Krishna loves me. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna cares for me. Krishna wants me to be with him more than I want to be with him. Krishna's hankering for you. You read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Krishna reveals that he's hankering for us to join him. He's feeling anxiety on our account. So you think like that. Here's someone who really loves you. And then, I said with Prabhupada and Krishna, I've always felt like that. So here's someone who really loves me. I'm willing to do anything because they love me. And they'll love me even if I don't do anything for them. That unconditional love. And that's the parents should be like that too. Whatever you do, we love you. You choose. Not, if you really loved me, you would chant. Guilt trips. We're your parents. We're working so hard to send you to private school. Aren't you appreciative? Or like my mother did. I carried you for 9 months. You do that? Just like you're telling what they're hearing is, I did some intense austerity for 9 months. I was miserable for 9 months. And look what you're doing to me. That's called a guilt trip, which we're all expert in, isn't it? I can do that with disciples. I gave you initiation. I took your karma. The only reason I've been sick for the last month is you. So anyway, I think it's time to end. Okay.